Now you can all go off camera if you choose, and let me share my camera. We are recording for those of you who joined after we turned it on. You probably got a notification when you came on the when you logged in any case. This is the second year we're doing this as a virtual. There's our lovely picture. And let me find the presentation. Let's go back to the beginning. And let's flip it to slideshow. Okay, so hopefully this works the way we wanted to. Tonight we're actually in the the one thing I did forget. Could I have somebody please raise their hand to take some minutes or some simple notes in addition to, if you want to add them as comments to whatever, to the slideshow or whatever, I would appreciate it. And just put who is doing that in the chat. I would really like that. Okay. So this is one of 3 parts of our annual meeting sessions, be a total of 6 hours. Basically, you know, we used to get together, or we can still get together. Typically when we do it for like a 6 to 8 hour session, and we're in and out in the same day so that we don't incur expenses of having to stay overnight, et cetera, et cetera. This is the second time that we've done this. For me, it's quite efficient. For some people, I do like the socialization. I do want to have an opportunity for us to get together in person, because I think a lot can happen because of that. But I think what's more important is that some of you are working with each other to make the camps happen, number one. And if we can get together afterwards so that we can develop some camaraderie, I'd really like to do that too. So that is going to be in my budget for next year, planning to do something that where we can all get together, or give us, as many of us, as an opportunity to get together as possible. We may do it in concert with some things we're going to do with TTAC, because we want to be able to have more interaction between the leadership team and Tech Track, which is who you are, and the alumni that are coming up. And we want to have them see, you know, how things happen and how you lead in organizations like this. And that will happen on Friday night. So we're going to talk a little bit about branch support, then camper tracking, and it's all kind of tied together, and then staffing. Because again, our volunteers are very much tied to our branches and our alumni. On Monday, which is our normal committee meeting, second Monday of the month, we're going to cover policies and procedures, what we're going to be working on for policies and procedures, some budgeting kinds of things as we get ready to roll into the next budgeting round for camps next year, and then QuickBooks Online. And we're going to have a presentation from the QuickBooks Online financial, the committee that worked on it, which is a combination of finance committee and Tech Trek people who worked on that to develop a plan for moving forward and getting our operations online, which is key to us to be able to do things faster and understand where they're at when people come at us and ask us for information. So tonight, what we're going to talk about basically is where we're at in the season. And you may have all seen this already, so I'm not going to dwell on a lot of stuff. I'm going to talk to each of you about, you know, talking about what happened with your camps, talk about the 2024 season and goals, and whatever time we have left and you choose that we'll chat. Any questions about that? Let me see what Dallas, I know you're going to have to sign off. Thank you. Let's Got it. Okay. So this is yes, I like data. I'm sorry, that's who I am. And so this is kind of a summary of what we had going on here. I have gotten some feedback from some of you that some of these numbers may not quite be accurate, and that depending on when you started measuring the shuffle. And that's fine. I think we get in the ballpark, and that's really what we want to be here, is in the ballpark and understanding what's going on and the dynamics of what are going on. These numbers are all based on numbers from April, right? From our April budgets. San Diego, I think, is the only one that actually did 5 nights instead of 6 nights. And so I prorated their numbers to reflect a 6th night and what that price would be at that type of level. The numbers from virtual camp really aren't particularly relative with certain things, but they are with other things. And those numbers are from 2021 instead of 2019, as is shown here for the residential numbers. But this year, you know, it was about the same in terms of volume, flow of nominations, and the numbers of teachers and schools that were involved. We had a few more branches, probably 10 to 15% more branches involved this year than last year. And we did end up with 150 alternates, and we ended up with, I want to say there were like 100 alternates left at the end, maybe a little bit under 100 alternates all over the state, not necessarily in particular areas. Any questions about this chart?
I have a general question since
Yep.
I'm pretty new at this. Did we get some sort of list of camp director and assistant director for which camp?
Yeah, that list gets published every year.
Where can I find it?
You should be able to find it up on the web. I'll send you a link after, Mary.
Thank you.
I'll send you a link.
Thank you.
If somebody else can find that link for where that list is, that would be great. And you could put it in the chat. But yes, we have a list of that, and that changes all the time. But
I understand.
I believe it's on the same page as the directory. And if you look under the, so if you go to the AAUW California directory, and then you go down, scroll down, and you'll see Tech Trek organization, and you click that drop down, that should show you everybody at all the camps.
Okay.
And we just went through it last week. If it's not quite right yet, I'm not surprised. Sandy's on vacation, so good for her that she's taken some time off. Any other questions? The numbers, as I said, you know, high could be slightly higher, less than 1%. So, you know, even with the shuffle. Yeah, Mary.
How are these estimated? These numbers per camper?
They're put together. You mean the dollars per camp? Yeah. This is strictly a mathematical formula based on 103 divided by the number of campers.
Okay, well, what I'm asking is where does the estimated cost come from? What's the breakdown of what's included in that?
Oh, that is a separate item, and we'll go through that when we do the budgeting part of it on Monday.
Excellent, thank you.
Okay, we'll go into that. We'll dig into that. What makes up that number then? But for right now, this is what was approved. These are the numbers as represented by what was approved by the board.
Hey, Mimi, when do you expect actuals to come in?
I don't know. I'm I'm waiting for that
Okay.
stuff to come in from. Usually, it's a combination of working between a push-pull. Let's call it that. Kathy, is that an accurate description?
Yes,
The
and the
number.
SPF bookkeeper just got back from vacation, so it's maybe a little
So-
slower.
We
Yes.
haven't got any
August.
numbers from August yet.
Yeah,
So we can't even tell where we were when we started paying out all the vouchers in, July and August, if some of them happened in August. So we should be being able to finalize numbers here, probably November timeframe, I'm guessing.
But we don't have the swag costs yet, and we don't have any other allocated costs. When are they going to come in?
We actually do have those swag
Yeah.
costs. Kathy and I put all those together a week ago, I think, but
and they were submitted,
How did-
so they're into SPF now.
So how do we see them? Are they in our drive as a treasurer? Because I didn't see any email that said we've submitted this. So
well,
they're in our drives by camp?
They're not, they're in the general administration, so I can post them in your camp according to what portion you got.
Yeah, and it
Yeah,
was all based on pro rata, just based on your numbers, what you ordered, all the tax rate where you are, wherever you had stuff shipped to. So I think yours was Bakerfield, right, Sue? Yeah. And
Right, but I've been looking for it to put it in our
yeah,
online, and if I don't see it, I can't do it.
no, I
So-
get it. So we'll fix that.
Mary,
Yeah.
I remember last time there was something about closed captioning. I'm just bringing that up because I don't.
Oh,
think I saw that in the
thanks.
message,
Thank
but-
you so much. Thank you so much. Thanks, Becca. Where is it? Let's see, captions. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Yeah, captions. There we go. Okay, cool. Too many clicks, too many clicks. All right, any other, I think the other thing I want people to just note is things have changed, and you can see, I'm gonna call this the COVID effect, for lack of any better term. Over here on the right side, where you can see how much change we've had since 2019. Now, granted, that is 4 years. So you would expect some small, Gail, what would you expect from a BLS standpoint? No more than 2% a year, right? Or 5% at the most. But some of these, and like David,
Not with the inflation we've had, these numbers are
I know.
somewhat in line with that.
I'm just surprised at the fact that Davis has been able to keep theirs to under 20%. That's amazing, Martha and Stephanie. I don't know how you did that.
Ours
We'll see when the
probably will
final
be
numbers
too.
come in.
Okay, that's fair enough. Fair enough. But so but that's 5% each for 4 years. Yeah, okay, I can see that. Some of them are quite substantive, and it is probably going to warrant a movement in your camper fee. And so we need to think about how, what your thoughts are on that, and how well that's going to be tolerated. And for those of you who didn't understand my comment about the Rubicon, that's my comment about the Rubicon. We're already at 1,400 in some places. At what point are the camps going to, or the branches going to say, we can't afford that? And if they can afford it, they're going to have to send fewer campers, because the prices are going to be high enough to require them to drop the number of campers they can send.
That's already happening.
I know, and it ties, but it also then ties to our capacity, our need to add capacity, and where we're adding capacity. And so it's much more integrated than perhaps we think, or we have thought in the past. And so that's part of our considerations. But for now, this is where we're at. And this is the kind of information that we'll adjust these. Obviously, as we get the actuals, those numbers may go up, they may go down a little bit. I don't know. We'll have to see when the numbers come in. This is basically, this is what the camp directors and we went over this in the last committee meeting in August, and I have since adjusted the numbers again a little bit based on things that I was able to get from Judy, for instance, Judy File, and what I was able to go through and review. This is the kind of hopes that I had that COVID was going to go away completely in 2024 is probably not going to happen. So we are going to have to deal with COVID again. But the good thing is that there is a full vaccine declination capability with our UC campuses now, so that the students who attend those schools can decline to have a COVID vaccine. They can't decline the rest of them without a medical exemption, but they can decline the COVID vaccine. And so to that point, we are going to allow them to decline the vaccines. We are also going to allow people to decline the vaccines or the booster. So the CDC recommendation right now is a bivalent shot. I don't care what your status was before, get a bivalent shot. That's basically what they're saying. And so if you don't want to do that, you need to decline. You need to complete an affirmative declination is what they call it. Affirmatively decline. And that's what we are going to change our policy to reflect. And we're going to have to be very upfront with it. We're going to change Camp Doc a little bit to make sure parents understand that upfront when they apply, that there is going to be a requirement for vaccination. We have the liability waiver upfront, but we never really tell them that we are going to require vaccination, but you can decline COVID. They cannot decline MMR. That's only a medical exemption. So the only thing that they can decline is COVID.
So, Dr. Mimi, this is Alice. So the only options then, hopefully in 2024, is one, you got the bivalent, or two, you want to decline.
Yep. That's
Perfect.
it.
Perfect.
I don't care how many shots you had in the past
Exactly.
or if you had any. If you don't have a bivalent,
Got it.
And the bivalent is this one that's been released most recently, is that right, Mary?
yeah. And they actually are releasing another one now, I think. But it was in May was the one, or late April or something. But the bivalent's been around since October. The CDC just changed their recommendations, and about how many, what you needed, monovalent versus bivalent in the beginning of May. And so that now is reflected in the UC policies. So they have changed their policies already, and we will change our policy and get the board to sign off on that. So we'll have to deal with this again, but I believe the issue will be much smaller because we are allowing them a full declination.
So does that mean that, like, if they had 2 initial shots, which we had some of that this year, they had shots that were over a year old, and they have to decline? I mean, I think that's where
If they don't have
policy is very confusing.
no, Pat, this is going to be very clear. As Alice said, if you have not had a bivalent shot, you must decline or get the shot. 2 choices.
Or not vaccinated at all.
If you're not vaccinated at all, you decline or you get the shot. If you have gotten the shots in the past and they were all monovalent, not bivalent, you decline or you get the shot. The option is pretty clear. If you have not had a bivalent dose of COVID at any point in time, you need the shot. If you don't get the shot, and then you decline affirmatively, period. You're done.
Okay, because it was confusing this year because we had some that
I know.
just got vaccinated and they didn't want to decline a booster because they just gotten vaccinated. They weren't
know.
eligible.
Well,
So it
and
was
some
very
people-
confusing.
When we go and we tell them you need a bivalent, when you tell them they need a bivalent, and if they say, I already had a bivalent, good, they're good. If they say, oh, I need a bivalent, let me go get one. Great. If they say, I don't want to do that, they can decline it. But they have to submit, they have to affirmatively decline it. They have to submit a document that says, I am declining this. And maybe what I can do is make it a spot on the form so they don't have to submit an actual form.
One other thing that might help clarify, because I think there is some confusion of when was a bivalent, and the different shots coming out. So if you could say you have to get a bivalent and it has to have been dated after this month or whatever, or this time frame, it probably would simplify.
Yeah, but that's not what the CDC thing says. So, and I think I have to go back, and their thing is basically if you've had bivalent, you're good.
Well, how long has the bivalent been available, Mary?
Since October of 2022, maybe.
So that seems pretty straightforward. I can't imagine anybody getting a vaccine right now that's not
Yes,
bivalent.
it was
So I
available
think-
as early as that, Alice.
I think it was in the spring they came out with the bivalent.
No, they came out with the CDC guideline on the bivalent, and
Okay.
that it was required as a recommended vaccine. That's what happened in the spring.
Got it.
In the fall, they actually started rolling out, but then they had both monovalent and bivalent available until they got through the monovalent supply. And then they pulled the monovalent off. You can't get a monovalent now. You can only get the bivalent. So I think that's timing wise, people who got theirs, and I noticed that on some of the documents that the actual card said bivalent, and yet it was back in like November of last year. And I'm like, okay. So there are some cases.
And if we could be clear that, when the branch coordinators or the branches are interviewing the girls, that they get this over and over again.
Well, we got to tell them up front again. We got to tell them in the letter. We got to tell the schools. We have, and I mean, it is a process, but I think the fact that they will have an option to decline getting the vaccine at all, and we will have a record that they declined. That's the issue, is we want to make sure that we have a record that they declined. I don't know in case of what, but that we do. In any case, I think there's a lot of good stuff that happened. I think, one of the things that I want to talk to you all about, and we need to discuss a little bit more as I'm going through, because we're going through the policies and procedures and making changes, is the requirement for dorm monitors and dorm moms to be over the age of 21. So I have been able to find out from, and I've looked all through national documents, and I've talked to the insurance people and asked them whether there's 21 is a magic age from an insurance perspective. And the answer is no. So there is no legal or insurance reason that would prevent you from having a dorm monitor or a mom between the ages of 18 and 21, other than maturity level, other than making sure that they're buddied up with somebody else. But I guess I want everybody else's take on how strongly you feel that we need to keep it at 21 instead of everything else being at 18. Gail. And why? You're on mute. You're on mute. I know whatever you're saying is beautiful, but
I'm sure it is, yes. If you require everybody to be over 21, you impose a tremendous burden on finding people, because once you're over 21, you should be out having a job.
pretty much 22 anyway, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it makes it harder
And-
to find volunteers if we force everybody to be over 21, in my opinion.
And it's hard to tell them, yeah, go away. Don't worry about earning $25 an hour or $20 an hour at home, and tell your parents you'll just be getting good, good girl marks. It's really hard in Fresno. Really, really hard
Yeah.
in Fresno.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that is one of the things that I am recommending that we change in the, obviously we can leave some language in there that says that, what's important is the maturity level. Martha, did you want to say something?
I was just going to say, we have not had any of those issues at all. Of course, our dorm moms tend to be a little bit older, but even those, they a lot of them are working and they get it off because their companies support it. So we have not had any issues. We have had issues when we've had younger dorm moms, even ones who we felt very positive about and thought would be splendid and really mature and could handle everything. So we have had the opposite situation at the Davis camp. I don't know, Stephanie, if you agree or what your thoughts are.
I wanted to add to that I personally think under 24 years old, they're too close in age to the girls. And maybe one-on-one they're not, but 10 girls in a dorm group versus one that's under 24, it is, it's difficult. And I think we've run into that situation a couple times, even though we thought the person was mature. The other thing is this year we did have some postgraduate students that were senior counselors, excuse me, and they were able to take the time off of work, even though they were working on grad stuff. They were able to work it out where they could be there for the week. And they worked out great. We even found that as junior counselors, senior counselors, the older, the better.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
But when you don't have a branch where your camp is located and your camp director is not tied specifically to a branch that can recruit people, you are really tying the hands of the director to find staff. And it's just really, really hard. And I'm just going to keep saying that for Fresno, when everybody's, at least 2 hours away from where camp is.
And I do hear you, Sue. I'm wondering if we, how about if we think about doing something like lowering the requirement for girls to, if they're under the age of 21, that you can only, they can only do 5 girls, 5 to 1?
No,
Why?
No. I mean, each camp director needs to run their camp the way that it will function for them. And when you say 5, Fresno doesn't operate the same way I don't think you dictate to the camp directors what you have to do, but you need to be fluid enough to accommodate places where everybody lives within, 100 miles, and where you have campers that are having to transfer 3 or 4 hours, counselors that have to travel from San Francisco to Fresno just to be a counselor and not get any money except mileage. It's really, really hard.
Yeah, it is up to I think if we give parameters, and then it would be up to the camp director. But I just want to point out that we have campers and dorm moms and counselors who do that, travel 5 and 6 hours, because we take girls from all the way up at the Oregon border. So, we understand, but I do think that there needs to be flexibility depending on the camp and what the challenges are they each deal with.
Yeah. Oh, well, and
So
no, and
I
I
come at-
understand that, but help me understand a little bit better. What are the issues? Why is a 1 to 5? I mean, if we're talking about these are girls that are between 18 and 21, so they're in college likely. They're coming in as a dorm mom and doing that experience. Why would it be it's $100 a girl or whatever, or a dorm mom, and is it that you don't want to pay two of them, or you don't
It's
like?
room and Mimi, it's room and board. And it
Okay,
is,
got it.
it's a little bit challenging to
Yeah.
get 1 to 10.
Yeah, I get it. I get it.
And some of us don't have dorm space for additional staff. We just fit in what we have. So
Yeah.
The other problem is that the 1 to 10 ratio is not in a single group. It is across the whole camp. So then if you're going to require some weird 1 to 5 ratio that it just doesn't work. But I also want to point out that
I get that too. I get, well,
that
yeah.
in a normal summer camp setting, your staff is going to be college aged. And I'm talking about a camp like I worked at in college, which is they're there the whole summer. They have different, or maybe the same kids every week. And they have no problem with having staff under 21 being in charge of a group of students. And yes, you can have some people that don't work out, but I had a 26-year-old that was acting like a counselor, and her 18-year-old counselor was acting more mature and more knew what was going on. So to put some arbitrary age is just, in my mind, a little bit ridiculous.
Well, I mean, they have to be an adult. How's that? We know
No,
that.
I obviously I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
That's not an arbitrary age. There's legal ramifications with there. But saying that, 21 versus 18, that makes zero sense to me.
Okay. So I mean, this isn't considered a vote or anything, but let's do this just for giggles, since we got everybody on the phone. I'm going to ask the committee members. Let me stop sharing for a second. The committee members, people who are actually on the committee, to vote. Everybody in favor of lowering the age to 18, just raise your hand. I'm not really going to count. I'm looking for a visual. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
so that's with discretion though, right?
Yeah, obviously, Susan.
So I'm just wanting, if we're just voting on the age, that's one thing, but if we're voting on the age and us being able to have discretion, like Martha said, then, or somebody.
Yeah, if you want to choose to say, I want somebody a little bit older, that's your prerogative to do that. I don't want to have to come back on the, or I guess if, I want to make it so that the people who are maybe coloring outside the lines a little bit right now, give them a little bit of flexibility, more flexibility in what they're doing, instead of having to constantly be careful about what's going on. Does that make sense? Is anybody totally so not in favor of this that if I propose it to the board, you're gonna like scream and write a letter to the board or something that's going to get me in trouble?
I just do want to second the opinion that I am a bit concerned about maturity level and the peer pressure and the interactions, but I think it really should be up to the camp director and their judgment, right? And especially, I would think that the camp directors have enough judgment to sort of, weed out who might not be mature enough.
Yeah. Yeah. And we'll talk some more about this when we talk about staff at the next meeting. So I did not want to spend too much time on it, but I do want to just let you know that that's part of the plan.